We are still working with DDWRT. How you like that? This video is sponsored by nothing. And I'm not going to ask you to like or subscribe. So here we go. All right, so we are going to be talking about wireless security specifically today. And I'm going to show you how to do it with DDWRT. But the thing with wireless security, especially if you're in school for cybersecurity, you're going to learn about network security, but I don't see a lot of info on wireless security. You learn about some stuff like man-in-the-middle attacks, but I mean, how does wireless actually get hacked? So let's start with how wireless actually gets hacked, and then we'll go through kind of like the different stuff on how to do wireless security. Cool? It's not like you have a choice. You already clicked play on the video. It is what it is. All right. So this is my little infographic that I made. I didn't make it. I had an AI make it, but you know what? It's what you get. That kind of demonstrates like how wireless hacking goes. So look at this. What's that right there? It's a hacker, all right? And then we've got all these different devices that are added to the wireless network, right? So you've got a computer over here. That's Ronald. Ronald is trying to finish his taxes. And then you've got a mobile device over here. Let's say that's Stacy. Stacy's 34, and Stacy's decided that, you know what? She's 34. She's single. She wants to date. She's not sure if she wants to have kids or if she does want to have kids, but, biological clock is ticking, so she gets on Bumble or Hinge or any of those. And then you've got another mobile device over here, and that's a dude named Chad. And Chad is busy doing his fantasy football thing. And then you've got another computer over here, which is a guy actually filling out a contact form for an attorney because he realized that his wife is cheating on him and he's going to file for divorce at the age of 48. So that's how life goes. And then you've got this puppy right here. So basically, and then this little guy down here. So basically the way a wireless attack works, we have this, it's an external wireless card, okay? So the wireless cards that are in our computers, they don't, they are not in what's called promiscuous mode or monitor mode. Ugh, promiscuous, that sounded dirty. Nice. Monitor mode allows them to monitor different wireless networks and also the devices that are attached to the wireless networks. So if this attacker puts his external network card into monitor mode, he can see all these devices that are added to the wireless network. Now, the way this works is there's something called a deauthentication attack. And it's not hard to do. I mean, these tools are just they come stock on any Kali Linux distribution. So basically, he picks one of these devices. Let's say it's the guy that's filing for his divorce. Ooh. And he sends a deauthentication packet to that device, which basically it kicks this device right here off of the wireless network. Well, when the device gets disconnected, most all of our stuff is set to reconnect automatically. So the device will reconnect automatically. And when it reconnects, it sends the authentication, which is probably like the network security key, right? The pre-shared key, the password. Well, the attacker monitors and picks up the key, which is encrypted, or at least should be, when this device re-authenticates to the network. And then the hacker basically takes that packet, that encrypted packet, and tries to use different word lists, kind of like a dictionary or brute force attack, and try to undo the hash and figure out what the network security key is. Okay, so when you've got a wireless router, first of all, like a lot of wireless routers that come with different internet service providers, the important thing is to change the network name and also change that key. That is usually the first thing to do. And the reason being is because a lot of those keys, a lot of those network security keys that come stock on those wireless routers are actually known. They're out there on databases that threat actors and hackers can get onto and find out. And they can use that as part of their word list to try to guess it. So when you change it to something unique, that in and of itself right there starts to protect you. So back over in DDWRT, that's the important thing, is to have a unique service set identifier, which is just a really fancy name for, the name of your network, and then, have a unique password for your network. Okay. So even with DDWRT, like this is on a Netgear router, it came with a basic wireless name, which the wireless network name was actually DDWRT. And then I don't remember what the password was to get onto the network, but it came like, standard and simple, right? So it was definitely important to change that password. So, again, we can't always make wireless networks 100% secure, but we can put as many roadblocks in place as we can to try to delay and deter a hacker from gaining access to the network or from doing things to other devices that are on the network, because that's something to know too. If somebody gains access to a machine, a device that's on the network, they can move laterally, try to move laterally to other devices on the network, and then the attackers will try to escalate their privileges because they may get onto a device as like a lower level user or a loser, whatever, if you're from the early 2000s, and then escalate their privileges to be able to be an administrator, and that's where they can do some real damage. So we need to not only harden the security of the network, the wireless network itself, to prevent, them figuring out the password from a deauthentication attack, but also we need to try to prevent hopping from device to device. So, and I'll do a video on what a deauthentication attack actually looks like. There's some good blog posts out there, but I'll do a little bit more in-depth one just to be able to show what it actually looks like, because it's really important. And in all honesty, like hacking wireless networks is fun and it's not hard to do. So we'll start here in DDWRT. So we got the basic settings, right? And look, men of letters, please understand that reference. So the first thing I want to talk about is network segmentation, because again, we've got, multiple devices on the network, and then, someone comes over to your place, someone comes over to your house, or someone comes to the office and they want to join the network. Well, why don't you put them on a different network so that way they can get internet access? So oftentimes with like routers and Wi-Fi setups, they call it a guest Wi-Fi. Well, in DDWRT, they actually call it a virtual access point. Okay, so that's something to know. So when you go here into wireless and then basic settings, you go down right here, this virtual interface, where you just click add virtual AP, which is add virtual access point, and you click the name for it, Devil's Trap. So that's the one I picked because any device that I don't trust, it's going in Devil's Trap and it segments it from the rest of my network. Now, the reason that's important is because like people with their mobile phones, first of all, people are not good with security. They're really not. They don't pay attention to stuff. They click on things all the time. I can't tell you how many people I know that actually like have unwanted programs downloaded on their computers and their mobiles. So if someone comes in with their phone and they want to get on your internet, put them on the guest Wi-Fi, or in this instance, the virtual access point. Okay, because that'll create network segmentation. You don't know what they've got on their device. It could have malware embedded already on it, and then they want to put, that malware wants to hop around. Don't let that happen. Okay. So, but you got to make sure you do it for both frequencies. Now, this is something that was really confusing to me when I started learning about networking. And I've seen this. So there's 2.4 gigahertz and there's 5 gigahertz. Okay. So here in DDWRT, anyways, here in DDWRT, what's really cool is you've got, you can literally name each frequency and each, Wi-Fi network on each frequency a different thing. So like I could have men of letters for 2.4 gigahertz, and then down here on the 5 gigahertz range, I could name it something completely different. And that's fine. I chose not to. I made them the same. I also gave them the same password. You can make it totally crazy. But basically, like, even if you go to coffee shops, you can see there's a wireless for 2.4 and then another wireless for 5. The difference being, it's just the radio frequency. 2.4 gigahertz covers more surface area, right? So I don't need to be as close to the router in order to have connection. It's also better at going through like solid objects like walls or doors. The downside of 2.4 gigahertz is that it's not as fast, and it can be more prone to interference. Okay, but usually most devices use 2.4 gigahertz frequency with their Wi-Fi connection. Now, 5 gigahertz, 5G, it's a higher data rate, so it's faster and it's less prone to interference. And there's usually fewer devices on it, which means you have more bandwidth for internet. Bandwidth is important, by the way. However, the downside to it, kind of opposite of 2.4 gigahertz, is that it doesn't penetrate through solid objects as well, and it has a smaller coverage area. Okay, from what I have been taught. So that's something to know, and that's why you've got the 2.4 and the 5. But here, you want to have a guest network. You have to click Add Virtual AP for each, gigahertz thing, range, set, whatever. And then you have to name it and, give it a password. But basically, you just add the virtual AP, you name it, make sure that, its AP isolation is enabled. In other words, the devices to this access point are not able to communicate with the other devices on other access points, like men of letters. That's important. Okay. And that's a basic setting. So you just pop over to wireless security, and then this is where you actually choose the password. All right. Now, let's get into wireless security with passwords, or PSKs, which stand for pre-shared keys. So here this is where you set the shared key, aka the password. You can actually choose if it's disabled, so you don't require any password. Don't know why you would do that. You can do WPA, WPA2. PSK stands for pre-shared key, right? You can do EAP. You can also do radius or WEP, WEP, which you should not be doing, all right? So most wireless networks, you get a password. That's the pre-shared key that they're talking about. And then you can get basically it's the encryption algorithm. AES, which is the advanced encryption standard, that is considered the top tier security right now until quantum computing takes over. Watch out for that. So basically, the difference between these, like WEP, WPA, and WPA2, they actually came out in succession. So WEP was the first wireless security protocol, and it was cracked really easily. It's really easy to crack that encryption. It's not considered secure. Don't use it. I don't know why you would ever want to use WEP. I wouldn't use it. WPA came out in 2003. It was kind of a stronger encryption, stronger security protocol. And then literally the next year, WPA2 came out in 2004. And that's the one, WPA2 is the one that uses advanced encryption standard. Now, you'll see here, there is something as WPA3, and that's not on this list. WPA3 is newer, and more devices are moving towards WPA3, but it's not as common right now. So usually WPA2 is going to be your best bet, all right? And then just, come up with a really good password, okay? Now, what you can also do, add another layer of security, is use what's called a MAC filter. And this is one of the things I love about, DDWRT. So a MAC filter, you basically enable it for each SSID, right? So I think this interface right here is for the 2.4, and then this interface right here is for the 5G. So MAC filtering. So if you don't know what a MAC address is, this is really important for networking. So you know how in movies and TV shows and stuff, you'd always hear oh, I need to find the IP address of this person. And you think, oh, the IP address is what leaks where I am and what I'm doing. Even more so is your MAC address. And the reason being is your MAC, MAC, which stands for Media Access Control address. Damn, I can't believe I remember that. Shit, I feel smart. That is a really specific 12-digit number. It's a hexadecimal number, so it can be 1A semicolon B2 or whatever. That's assigned to the device. So like a laptop on a network, for example, like the laptop of Teddy, who's filing for divorce. at the age of 48. That's got a really specific MAC address. That laptop has a MAC address that will not be changed. And if you look on the network, even if the laptop gets a different IP address when it rejoins the network, you can see it still has the same MAC address. Now, the cool thing about that is you can do MAC filtering on this. So let's say you want a really secure network, right, with DDWRT wirelessly. Not only does the person need the pre-shared key, but the person's device, their MAC address, has to match the MAC filter or be added to it. So they could have the password, the wireless password, and they come in and they try to add, a random device with the wireless password. Well, that device isn't going to be able to get on the network because you've got a MAC filter. So that's, yeah, I love that about the fact that you can do a wireless MAC filter. Don't forget you have to do save and then apply settings if you do that. Okay. So the other thing that's really neat is that you can actually set up a Radius server. Okay. So, and I yeah, you need to hit enable. All right. So Radius is something that's used in a lot of enterprise networks. So when we say enterprise networks, we're talking about like office networks that are much more, not like a small home office, but like there are a lot more devices and the setup is a lot more extensive. So Radius stands for remote. Don't fuck this up, Red. Don't fuck this up. Remote authentication dial-in user service. I'm pretty sure I got that right. Remote authentication dial-in user service. So Radius is basically a server. So it's like a central network server. So that server is actually what authenticates, authorizes, and then basically accounts for users that are trying to access the network. So you can set up a Radius server. A Radius server is not hard to set up. So like if you have a great example is like if you have a permanent PC, right, desktop on your network, you could either host or even virtualize, Windows Server, for example, and you can set up that Windows Server as a Radius server. And that Radius server, so it's got users. So, if you want to get on the wireless network here to be able to use the network, get access to internet, even gain access to resources on the network, like, other devices and stuff like that, you've got to authenticate not only with the wireless network pre-shared key, you also have to authenticate as a user. And this can involve like certificates, it can involve usernames, but it's a whole nother level of security. And this router, like this physical Netgear router, this did not come stock with the ability, the software that was on it didn't come stock with the ability to do a Radius server. But now with DDWRT, I can set up a Radius server here, and then I can configure that in here, right, in DDWRT, enable. I put in the server address, the MAC format, the port, the maximum number of users, the password format. I can do MAC address, or I can do the shared key, which is password, right? And then there's the shared secret. I can choose not to override it if the server is unavailable. So if the server goes down, nobody's getting access to the network, So yeah, there's that's a big level of security. Okay. That's a big level of security. So to me, that's the basics of like how you can make your wireless network more secure. Now, what I'll say, and what I'll always say, is that people can be fucking dumb, okay? That's the honest truth. People can be morons. Do I feel bad about saying that? No, I don't. Am I ever going to take it back and apologize for it? No, I won't. People can be dumb. I'm a person. I can be dumb. People make mistakes. And that's one of the biggest issues with security. It's not the security controls that are there. It's the people that make the mistakes. So like somebody that has their password for their computer fucking written down on a Post-it note sitting on their monitor, and all of a sudden me, being a threat actor, walks by, sees the note, writes down the password, and uses it to gain access later. Like, it's just people being dumb, or people leaving their stuff unlocked, or people not being conscientious. So when it comes to like securing your wireless network, be cognizant, be smart. It takes a little bit extra time and it's not convenient, but make a guest network, make a virtual access point. And even though they're your friends or your family, if they want to gain access to your internet, put them on the guest network, right? Like the one I made, Devil's Trap. And if you want to make it really secure, you got a network attached storage device that has really sensitive files and stuff on here. Set up MAC filtering, make it secure. You know, that's all I have to say. Okay, bye.